Now, when people go to buy a house, everyone budgets for their mortgage, right? But almost nobody really takes into account some of the other factors that affect the cost of a home and some of the things that you're going to have to be prepared for when you're purchasing a home, and that's what we're diving into here today. My name is David Moyer. I'm with Keller Williams Advisors Real Estate in Dayton, Ohio. I've been a lifelong resident, and this is the second part of a 4-part series. So if this is your first time watching, make sure you not only like this video, but you subscribe so you get notified the moment the next video drops as we explore my buyer boot camp over the next several weeks to make sure you're ready for 2026 to be the year that you finally get into real estate and some of the costs that are involved with that. So let's just dive right into it. One of the first things people always know is, well, we have to have a down payment. That's not always necessary. If you are a VA client, if you're a veteran of an armed forces, then you actually could qualify for little to no down payment on your loan. If you're an FHA buyer or a first-time home buyer, you could qualify for no more than 3.5% down payment on your loan to get into a property. So let's take into consideration if you're looking to purchase a $200,000 property and you're going FHA. That means your down payment is going to be roughly $6,500, $7,500, give or take. That's something that you want to make sure you account for and you're ready for, and your loan officer can walk you through that, and I can help you out when it comes time to meeting that loan officer and making sure they have the program that's right for you. After that, we're going to talk about title insurance. Title insurance is what protects you when you buy a property in the event there's something on that property that the title company was unaware of or was hidden at the time of the title search, and when you buy that home, you are also buying that liability. A good example of this could be, let's say there was a project done on the property, the contractor from the previous owner never got paid, and during the course of the transaction while you're closing, that contractor is filing a lien on the property. That lien could be a couple $100, it could be several $1,000s. If you buy that property and that lien is not found by the title company, which in most cases it is, that lien now becomes your responsibility if and when you go to close on the property down the road to sell it to somebody else. But what title insurance can do for you is it's going to say, we're going to protect you in the event there was something that went unnoticed or out of our control, and it comes up in a search down the road when you go to sell. We've got you covered. It's a one-time payment. It's based off of how much you're mortgaging the property for and how much you're paying for the property, and it protects you for the lifetime that you own that home. This is also a great example if somebody actually sold their home and they were married, or they were in the middle of a divorce and the actual spouse never signed off on the deed to begin with when you purchased the home. This is going to protect you should that spouse ever show up again and say, I still own half of this property because I never paid for it. Now, a typical title insurance policy can be as low as $400 or $500. It can be upwards of a couple $1,000s if you're buying a larger property. And you can actually ask a seller to contribute most, if not all, of the cost of that title insurance policy, depending on your negotiations. So don't count this out. It's completely optional. I always make sure that my sellers and my buyers understand what title insurance can do for them and the importance of title insurance in securing the transaction. So if you're interested in title insurance, we can dive into that a little bit more. Also, another cost that a lot of people don't think about are their escrow reserves. And escrow reserves essentially are setting up those monthly payments for your title, your insurance, your mortgage insurance, and your taxes. There are property taxes that come along with your property. So you're not just buying that $250,000 or $300,000 property, you're also paying the property taxes, which could be anywhere in Montgomery County from $2,500 a year upwards of $7,000 a year, once again depending on the size and quality and location of the property, and depending on what school system you're in as well. So what the escrow is going to do is it's going to set up around 3 to 4 months of reserves. So let's say your monthly insurance premium on a property you're purchasing is $300. Right away, you're going to want to set up an escrow reserve of roughly $900 to $1,200. That's going to get set aside. Now you're also going to have your homeowner's insurance premium. Let's say your homeowner's insurance premium is $1,000 a year. Now we're looking at $1,000 a year up front, and we're also looking at that $900 to $1,200 a year. So we're looking at about $2,200. That's what's going to get set aside, and it's going to cover your insurance for the first year and also give you some padding for those taxes. And then every single month, you're going to be making 1/12 of the taxes and insurance on your monthly payment on your mortgage, so that this time next year, those will be paid on your behalf. That way your taxes never lapse and your homeowner's insurance never lapse, because your mortgage lender wants to make sure that your home is always insured. So you want to prepare for those. Doesn't necessarily mean that you have to pay for them yourself. You can actually negotiate that as a seller paid closing cost when you're negotiating the contract. So if you're looking to purchase a home, let's say for $300,000, but you need $5,000 in closing costs to help with your lender costs, as well as setting up your escrow, you can actually negotiate that with the seller. And if the seller's bottom line on that $300,000 example is, let's say, $290,000, but you need that $5,000 escrow set up, you can actually negotiate to pay the seller $295,000. They will then credit you back $5,000 to set up the escrow. So why you should budget for this is important in case you come across a seller that's unable to negotiate that with you. But if you can get the seller to help you with those costs and pay that at closing, it can save you a ton of money at the end of the day. Lastly, we're going to talk about different rates when it comes to living in areas such as Beavercreek or Centerville or Kettering. They all have different rates in terms of the property taxes. And that is usually a direct correlation between not only city services, but also the school system. So if you're looking at an area like Beavercreek, you're going to have a pretty average rate of taxes to cover all of the things such as the school system and the city income tax and everything like that. But if you're looking at Oakwood, Oakwood has an outstanding rating when it comes to their school system, and people actually move to Oakwood for the school system. You're going to want to be prepared for a higher tax rate there, and that is going to impact your monthly mortgage, even if you're paying the same price for a home there that you are in Beavercreek. So a home that's $300,000 in Beavercreek and a home that's $300,000 in Oakwood are actually going to have completely different monthly mortgage payments, simply because of those taxes and insurance that you want to make sure you're accounting for long before you ever make that offer. Being prepared is key. Now also, some things you may not think about when it comes to housing costs are HOAs. HOA is the Homeowners Association. You may or may not be familiar with these. You're definitely familiar with them if you're looking strictly at condos, because you're going to have a mandatory condo association fee. But if you live in a newer housing development, there may be an HOA fee. It can be as low as $30 to $45 to $50 a month, paid semi-annually or annually, and that's going to cover certain things like the entrance to the community. It's going to cover certain things like the rules and regulations and just maintain the community. And we also see HOAs that are upwards of $100, $150, $200 a month. And a lot of times those will actually cover services such as maybe some lawn care that's taken care of for you on your behalf. Maybe there's a pool that you can use in the summertime. Maybe there's a playground. Maybe there's a clubhouse within your community. Those HOA fees are going to cover that on your behalf. So if you're looking at a property and you're budgeting for the property based off of the taxes and the insurance, once again for that $300,000 house, but now you're looking at a $300,000 house in a community that has an HOA, it's important to not only know what those HOA rules are and whether or not your lifestyle is going to fit with those HOAs, but also what they cost. So you want to make sure you know that up front so that you don't go under contract and then find yourself at a budget crunch once you're going through the transaction and you're getting ready to close. Now, once you find that house, you go under contract and you're ready to do your inspections, there are things you want to be aware of. And I always help my buyers with these questions and issues long before we ever go under contract as we're walking through the property. And those are maintenance items that you want to be aware of. The biggest ones here in the greater Dayton area are going to be your HVAC. That's your furnace and your air conditioner. You want to see how old they are, if there are any maintenance records, and if this is something that you should be budgeting for replacement once you move into the property. If you want to move into the property and the system is old, but it works really, really well, the seller has maintained it just fine, but it is at the end of its life expectancy or close to it, you can maybe ask the seller for some sort of home warranty. That's going to cover you for the first year, maybe 2 years that you're in the home, for a small deductible in the event that furnace were to go out, or when the summertime rolls around and you go to turn on the air conditioner and the air conditioning does not work. That home warranty is going to cover you. Next in line is going to be the water heater. Water heaters have a life expectancy of anywhere from 8 to 9 years, upwards of 11 to 12 years. Over that, the water heater is going to be past its life expectancy. So if that's something that the life expectancy is approaching at a water heater in a home that you're under contract for, make sure you're budgeting for typical replacement of that within the first couple of years of you owning the home if you're unable to negotiate with the seller for any sort of replacement. And keep in mind, just because it's old doesn't mean the seller has to replace it. Now, if it's not working, that's a whole different story, and that's a whole different video. Also, let's talk about roofs. Roofs are really important here in the greater Dayton area. If you lived in Ohio, or if you're like me and you've lived in Ohio your entire life, you know that in the wintertime, we have some extreme colds, and in the summertime, we have extreme heat. And what does that do to roofs? It ages them exponentially faster than it does in other parts of the country with more mild temperatures. The average roof is going to last around 30 years, but in Ohio, a 30-year roof is going to have a life expectancy of around 22 to 25 years. Once you get around that age frame, then you're going to want to start to budget for replacing a new roof. That can be an expenditure of $14,000, upwards of $34,000. Once again, depending on the style of roof, the location, the pitch of the roof, and the size of the house. So your inspector is going to give you all the details on that. But once again, one of the things that I do is I will walk through the home with you. We're going to check that furnace age. We're going to check the air conditioner age. We're going to look at the hot water heater, and we're going to do a visual look at that roof to see what the condition is, or if the seller can tell us up front what the age of that roof is and when the last time they've had it replaced, or if they've had any sort of repairs done on the roof since owning the home. Lastly is going to be the sewer line. If you're purchasing an older home in the Oakwood area, Kettering area, and the sewer line is original, more than likely that's a clay sewer line, which means over time, tree roots can get in there and cause that sewer line to collapse. So that is something that you definitely not only want to have inspected, but see if the seller has any records of any sort of maintenance or scoping or anything like that, so you know whether that's going to be something that you're going to have to tackle in the first couple of years of owning the home, or if you are good to go and you're in the green. This is extremely important because the last thing you want to do is get into your dream home, start your life, and then all of a sudden have a $10,000 repair bill. Now, I'm not saying this to scare you. I'm saying this so you are prepared when it comes time to purchase the home. So one of the things I'd love to do is walk people through the property and go over all of this once again, long before we ever go under contract. It's important to me for my sellers and my buyers on both sides to be comfortable when they go under contract with any what ifs that could happen down the road. And lastly, really quick before we go, there's ongoing maintenance with any home you buy. I don't care if you're buying a new construction property, if you're buying a home that's 5 years old, or if you're buying a historic home in downtown Dayton, or in Oakwood, or Kettering. You're going to have maintenance costs. This is everything from just the regular bills, the utility bills. Make sure you ask those sellers for any average utility bills if the property is looking to, like, it's going to be a good fit for you and maybe it's your upper price point. You want to make sure you're not moving into an older home that's all of a sudden going to have a $300 or $400 heating bill every single year because of the style of home. So make sure you know what those costs are going to be and what the average taxes are going to be all across the board. So once again, my name's David Moyer. I'm with Keller Williams Advisors Real Estate in Dayton, Ohio. I'm a lifetime resident here of Dayton. I love helping people buy their first homes, relocate here, or move up or downsize within the greater Dayton area. So if you found this video and information helpful, I definitely recommend that you like and subscribe or share it with somebody else, because I do have more videos dropping on this buyer boot camp over the next couple of weeks that are going to explore other things you should be aware of if you're thinking to make 2026 the year that you buy a home. And in my video next week, we're going to talk about the different neighborhoods around the greater Dayton area and who fits into those neighborhoods best. And it doesn't necessarily mean you have to go into those neighborhoods, but you should definitely be aware of what those neighborhoods have to offer depending on your lifestyle, because the last thing you want to do is buy a home and get in there and find out that your lifestyle just doesn't fit and you fell in love with the home because of a beautiful kitchen and that's it. So thanks for watching. I look forward to seeing you soon.